Hello, it's Candy with Affordable Bookkeeping and Payroll Services. And recently I had a comment on one of my ERTC videos asking for me to show how to file the original 941 and claim the ERTC on it at the same time. Now, this won't apply to many people because you probably have already filed your original 941s, but for those who have not yet done so, then this video will be for you. So let me share my screen so I can show you how to claim it. The person who reached out to me needed to file 2020, so I did a search for the 941 2020. If you're doing 2021, of course, make sure you have that year. If you just do a general Google search, it will bring up 2022, because most payroll software will not file that far in the past, so you'll have to do a Google search and download the document. So what I did here was just fill in some basic information for the company. I obviously don't want to give away anything for a real customer. Select the quarter. In this case, I'm going to assume we are filing for the third quarter 2020. Now you will fill this out like you normally would for a regular 941, putting your employees, the wages, the taxes, and then coming up with your tax due. And then, of course, if you have the rounding, this all is the same, and you'll get your total taxes after adjustments. Where we start to add information is here on line 11C, where it says non-refundable portion of the employee retention tax credit. So let me show you how I calculated those numbers. The first thing I want to mention is that originally there was one worksheet and everything was calculated on the same worksheet, whether it was for the family leave or it was for the employee retention tax credit. As of July of 2021, they revised it into 5 worksheets. So if you are filing for any wages paid after March 12th, 2020 through July 31st, 2021, you will use worksheet 2 for the employee retention tax credit. If you are using July 1st, 2021 wages, or if you are a recovery startup business and you could claim the 4th quarter of 2021, you would use worksheet number 4. This number on line 1B is your number from line 5A on your 941. Again, if you are filing for third quarter of 2021, they changed the calculation to be Medicare wages, and you would use the number here. Now, in this case, it's the same. In some situations, it is not. You're going to multiply that number, in this case, by 6.2%. Again, if you're doing third quarter 2021, it would be 1.45% instead. And that gives you your employer share of the Social Security tax paid in the quarter, which becomes the non-refundable portion. If you have any other situations here, you would have additional numbers, but most cases that we've been working with, there's nothing here, so I've left that blank. Step 2 is to figure your employee retention tax credit. Now, again, on here, they had a total of $84,771.89. Just to show you a different wage, what I assumed for this example is that there is a majority owner on payroll who earned $5,000, and those wages do not qualify. So I have changed the number to $79,771.89. I've also assumed that they did have some qualified health plan expenses. So the employer portion of that was $4,921.60. That gives you $84,693.49. For 2020, the multiplier was 50%. And remember that total wages per employee for all of 2020 claims is a 10,000 qualified wage maximum. For 2021, the qualified wage per employee is $10,000 per quarter, and you multiply that by 70%. So make sure that you're calculating your wages correctly and you're using the correct multiplier. In this case, $42,346.75 is our employee retention tax credit. On this line, you're going to pull down the number that was up here at 1N, unless you are claiming sick pay as well. And that would have been on worksheet 1. So here it says $5,255.86 because we did not have any non-refundable portion of the sick and family leave. This part is extremely important to pay attention to. The non-refundable portion is the smaller of 2F, so the smaller of the total employee retention tax credit that you can claim, or the non-refundable portion of the credit that you calculated earlier. Many people have a higher ERTC, but there are some that had a lot of wages that went to PPP, and they may have had a lot of wages in the quarter, so a higher amount that was considered non-refundable. If that is your situation where your ERTC is lower, then the lower of the two goes right here for 2J. Then you subtract the total ERTC less the non-refundable to come up with the refundable. So again, if your ERTC was less than this, your non-refundable is the total employee retention tax credit, and 2K would be 0. All right, so you go back over to your original 941, and here you can see the non-refundable portion of the employee retention tax credit. So we put in there the $5,255.86. We did not have any additional credits here for the qualified sick and family leave. So the total non-refundable credit is the $5,255.86. To figure out your total tax liability, you take your total tax here that was on line 10. You subtract the total non-refundable credits. And in this case, it's $14,495.19. We're assuming that the total deposits were the full amount of tax that was due, $19,751.05. If you did not pay the tax, obviously, you would have a 0, or if you paid less, whatever the number is that you paid here. In this case, we are going to put the refundable portion, because again, we did have it in this example, $37,090.89. So we're going to add together the total deposits that were already paid plus the refundable portion, and we come up with $56,841.94. I suggest that you select send a refund. If you want to try to apply to the next return, it could become very complicated, especially because this is being filed so late. You have to track how much of the credit that you have, assuming the IRS is going to give you that full credit. And then as you're using it for future quarters, keeping track of that. But they also add interest for the ERTC. And so you may not be calculating correctly. So the easiest way to do it is just put your total overpayment, which again is the total deposits less the total tax, and then select send a refund. If you're a monthly tax depositor, of course, you would have filled in this section as usual. This example that I pulled some of these numbers from was a Schedule B filer, their semi-weekly taxpayer. Okay, in part 3, you need to list the qualified wages that you used to calculate the employee retention tax credit. And again, those will come from your worksheet. $79,771.89 was the total qualified wage. And the qualified health plan, $49,2160. So I did put those in here. If you were filing for the second quarter of 2020, the wages are split on the worksheet, but you will add together this qualified wages for the quarter and the qualified wages for March to put onto the 941. Same thing with the qualified health expenses. And that only happens that one quarter, second quarter 2020, where you get to add the March 13th through 31st. And then make sure you fill in the rest down here where you normally would on a regular 941. And of course, if you don't sign your document, it's not considered a legal document. So make sure you always sign in section 5. That is how you file on the original 941 to claim the employee retention tax credit. The IRS is many, many months behind, so it may take them anywhere between 7 to 10 months for them to respond and send that refund. So it's just going to be a little bit of a time for you to have to wait for that refund. But if you have not yet claimed the employee retention tax credit and you have not yet filed your original 941, this is how you do so. All right, if you have any additional questions, be sure to leave comments on the video and I will be happy to answer them.